Hello everybody, welcome to my first YouTube tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how I paint a fish. But first, let's get into the materials I used. I used a size 6 brush and I also used a size 1 brush towards the end for some details. I'm using cold pressed paper and I have the dimensions on the screen, but you can use any paper that you prefer as long as it's watercolor. For my orange, I mixed Pyrrol Scarlet with new Gamboge yellow and I did a 60 to 40% ratio. And I also have some of that new Gamboge just on my palette to use unmixed as well. And then I mixed some permanent light yellow with some gold and I made this goldfish yellow. Like the paper, use any colors that you prefer, but these are the colors I'm using. This is the fish reference that I'm using, and I start off by taking my goldfish orange and I'm putting 3 dots at the base of the 2 back fins and the top flowy fin. I don't know fish anatomy, so I don't know if these are proper terms, but you'll get the general idea. I'm only using very tiny dots because I find that if you do more of a flow method with a clean brush of water after you add those dots, you can fan out where you would like those fins and it creates a nice like cloudy like effect, kind of how those fins are translucent. So it's a very nice simple way to get those base fins down. You can see I'm kind of mopping my brush, rolling it around to create that effect, and I take the bottom of my brush and enter it into the pigment dot versus my entire brush, so I'm kind of dragging it out. And then I do the same thing for the top fin. I drag it out where I would like it. I'm not cleaning my brush because I wanted there to be a bit more pigment on here, but if you want these to be more transparent, clean your brush before every swoop and you won't be transferring pigment from the last dot into the next dot. Next, I'm going to be going in with my brush pretty pigment loaded with the goldfish orange, and I'm going to be adding that kind of vibrant spot that we can see on the reference. That's pretty neon orange, and I like to get as much color down on the first stain as possible so we can kind of finish the painting in as little layers as necessary. So if you get as much color and stainage down in the first layer, you can focus more on details when it's dry. And now I'm bringing down that pigment that I added to kind of create the rest of the shape of the goldfish. And I'm switching to my new Gamboge yellow to create this kind of ombre between that orange and the rest of the fish. Because you can see on the reference that it kind of goes from yellow shadow to orangey shadow a lot. So I want to make sure that this fish has that kind of nice ombre going for it. I'm also adding some more texture now that we have more pigment heavy paint on our brush, and I'm just using like the yellow that's left on my brush with some of the orange that kind of naturally mixed into it while I was adding it to the fish, and I'm using that to kind of make more defined lines on the fins. And I'm going over the rest of the fish with the goldfish orange, and you can see I'm kind of doing this circle scrub motion with my brush, and that's because I want to break up the hard lines that have started to form from the water drying because I was a bit too slow, so I want to avoid those hard lines and blend them out. And if you've never heard the term hard lines, it's also called harsh lines, and that refers to when your watercolor is drying and the pigment settles near the edge of where you put the water. So sometimes it's a cool effect, but not in this case. We don't really want that. And now I'm taking my holographic yellow that I mixed and I'm dotting it where I see scale effects. And when this dries, it'll create kind of like a really cool goldfishy effect. And I'm also blending out some of the holographic yellow because I want this fish to be pretty shiny. I decided to add some of the shine to the fins as well because I just think that would look really cool. You can never go wrong with sparkle. Also, you can see in the reference that the fish does have some bright yellow down there, so why not make it shiny? I'm going in with some of my goldfish orange again and dotting it back into that place. I really want to make sure that this one spot on the fish is really vibrant because it is very, very vibrant on our reference right there. The fish also has this cheek shadow that I want to make sure has more pigment placed right there. So I'm going to add that shadow and kind of the more oranginess that the fish has all together on the back of the body. And you can see my cheek shadow kind of got washed away, but it's okay. We can go back over it when it dries. It's also pretty pigment heavy right at the top there where it goes into the top little fin, so I want to add some more pigment and add little spoopies going up because there is a little bit of orange that creeps up before it goes transparent. Because I'm using cold pressed paper, it will naturally make these kind of scale-like effects with the grooves, so that's something to keep in mind if you choose to use hot pressed paper because it won't have that same effect. I'm taking that goldfish orange and I am adding some more swipey swipes to the back of the fins. I'm kind of making this like gradient effect going on, having the yellow and the transparency there. Next, I'm taking my new Gamboge yellow after washing my brush, and I'm going to dot some of it, kind of where it's a bit lighter on my fish because the fish body isn't as light as the fins, so we don't really need that light effect across the whole fish. So I'm just going to dot it kind of around where I added the scales, and I'm going to add a little bit of it on this blank spot. Right on the head, which will blend very, very nicely with the orange. Here I'm taking some of that goldfish orange and attempting to put it right below this top fin, but my brush just had too little water on it and it actually sucked up some of the pigment off the paper. So after wetting my brush and getting some more pigment, I tapped in some more of this bright goldfish orange. I kind of wanted more contrast. As you can see, I'm also going back over the spot that I've been trying to get as neon as I like. I just needed my paper to dry a bit more, so my paper is partially wet right now. You can see that the pigment is spreading like it's wet, but it's not quite absorbing it as much as when it was overly thirsty. So it's not soaked, but it's not dry. And then I'm going back in and adding those mouth shadows that got diluted. I'm also just adding some more face shadows in general because there is kind of a little orange under eye that this fish has going on. Next, I'm going to be adding the other fins. So I'm going to add a dot of our goldfish orange right at the bottom here. And then next to that dot, I am going to be adding a dot of our new Gamboge yellow. When you are swishing these two out, it's important that you don't let them touch so they can stay their own individual fin and not kind of merge into one blob. So I'm rinsing my brush and adding a little bit of water. I tapped it, I think, about 4 times. And then I am taking my brush and approaching it with the very tip and kind of swooping it out, following the same direction that my reference is going. And I'm swooping it under this other fin, so I will transfer the pigment across. And it's okay if it's light. These are transparent fins and you can always add more pigment if you desire. And I didn't rinse my brush because I wanted a little bit of an ombre, so I'm going into the other dot and just doing the same thing. Remember, it's okay if it is a little see-through. That is our goal with this effect. And you'll see in a second, I take some pigment and I do add it to the top fin because I want the top fin to be darker than the bottom fin. But I don't really mess with that bottom fin because I thought that the pigment turned out pretty perfect on that. You can see I'm cheating and kind of mixing my own orange concoction in the middle, but it's just a mix of the colors we already have on our palette. And I'm adding little tiny strokes to this bottom fin so it can have a strokey texture, and I'm adding it to our other fin as well. Then I'm going to head and let this dry. I don't want to overwork it, and I am happy with this base. Now that it is dry, we are back, and I am not sure why the camera quality went so bad, but it did. I'm taking a size 1 brush, and I'm taking my goldfish orange, and I'm going back in, and I'm doing kind of a dotty texture down the back of that upper fin that's on the top of its head, really creating that emphasis that we were trying to go for with the base stain. And now, because I have a tinier brush, I can really get those stripes on the fins to create those textures. And I'm going in and doing kind of the same thing right where we were trying to get this vibrant spot before, making sure that I have all of the deep pigments that I want. With watercolor, you have to work backwards. You work from lightest to darkest. So that's why we waited until the very end to really ensure that we had that pigment that we wanted, and we didn't try to go too overboard on the staining, which I will say I might have overworked it a bit trying to get the colors we wanted, but we got there in the end. I'm also adding the cheek line back in, just making it a bit darker, and you'll see that I go in with this color a bit later to add the mouth as well. And I'm going to add some little more details to the fins. These details are better to get on dry paper with, I would say, not very wet pigment, but not too dry of pigment. And then we're also going to add our last fin after our layer is dry, because this fin would have just got blurred and lost into our background of the fish that we were building. So that's why we waited until the end to add that fin. And I'm just going to continue to add some texture to the rest of these fins. And I'm also really focusing in on where we're going to place that eye in a second. I'm taking some of my new Gamboge yellow and continuing that detailing on the fins. I'm watching Breaking Bad in the background, so that's why I dramatically pause. I'm adding some of the yellow at the tips of these fins because if you look closely at our reference, the orange bits that it has on top fades into yellow, and I am completing the little face shading. And as you can see, after we added the yellow and lighter orange around the face, that it kind of created like a natural eye socket, which I really liked. And it matches the photo, which is really cool. I'm now taking my brush and dotting in some more scale effects. I'm kind of just looking at my reference and seeing where the colors fall, and I'm also using my finger to tap it to make it a little lighter and more blended looking. And I'm using my gold color once again to add some more gold scales. I mean, this is a goldfish after all. This gold color is also the color that I'm going to use for my eyeball. If you don't have any holographic pigment, that's totally okay. Just use what colors you have available. And if you're willing to experiment, if you have makeup, it's worth trying some like highlighter that you have in your makeup bag. Maybe you can make it sparkle. I'm just adding some last finishing details of little shimmers on the fins, and then we're gonna let this dry. Now that it is dry and we're back to better camera quality, I have no idea what happened. We are ready to ink it. This part is optional. You can just fill in the pupil if you don't want to do the entire fish, but I'm gonna show you what the whole fish looks like if you were to ink it, so you can see like if you like that option or if you just want to leave it as is. I kind of think the pen work around it frames the fish, but like I said, this is totally optional. Before I outline the rest of the fish, this is where I add my mouth because it got washed away, and I just thought it could look better. It could look more vivid. So here I am adding the mouth. And now it's time to ink. Enjoy a compilation of me inking this. You can see that my ink style is pretty loose around it. I'm kind of just freehanding, flowing, not really caring how sturdy my hand is. I kind of like the loose look of it. I think this fish kind of screams like flowy, so I wanted the line work to reflect that. And this is also the moment to add like the white tips of the fins. If you don't want to do a full body outline, I still recommend maybe outlining little bits of the white to kind of reflect that the fish does have those little white fins, but like I said, completely optional. Now that your fish is done, you can do anything you would like to do for the background. You can do a dark sea blue with some drops of water to create like a bubble effect. You could do some seaweed, or you could even do some sand with a funny looking crab. You can do anything that you want to do for the background. I hope you guys enjoyed my first tutorial video, and please let me know in the comments what you would like to see more tutorials of. Have an amazing day.